A lot of people feel like their lives changed. I've talked to people who feel like their lives have changed. I feel like talk to people who felt like their lives have been saved, right? Because of BTS. That if it wasn't for BTS and if it weren't for ARMY, they wouldn't be here. So what's bigger than that? Apparently, Minecraft YouTubers have stands and stuff, and that's cool. This is already the most uninformed way to start this conversation. To be honest with you, I am no expert on stands. I'm not a fan studies scholar. I'm not a seasoned employed journalist. I'm a person who knows some things, and I'm also a BTS stan, as a lot of you guys know. I'm a BTS stan as of about a year and a half, and I'm very happy with that. Now, people have stigmatized that, and people can say all they want about, but I am very happily a BTS stan. And I've also learned a lot about stan culture from there. However, I'm no expert on every stan group, not even an expert on ARMY, let alone all the fan bases that I'm not a part of. And it is still, with each passing day, a subject that I learn more and more about. And stan culture in particular, and the fact that these different stans from these different YouTubers and celebrities that are not musicians, not pop artists, exist and are active on Twitter is also something that I'm learning about. With that being said, I do think that I've picked up a few things about stan culture in the time that I've considered myself a stan. And so I want to now have this discourse that is being referred to in the title of this stream that we're doing here at BBYGANG. I want to talk about whether or not stan culture is good or bad. And I think we're going to talk about this a lot over the next millennium. But in particular, today there seems to be this controversy going on in the Minecraft stan community. And so I'm going to first dig deep into it, react to it, and then I'm going to talk to you guys about it and talk about my personal experiences and thoughts about stans and what people think about them and what's true, what's not true, and how do we move forward about stan culture in the right way. So this is Josh. Apparently he's a Minecraft YouTuber. He's 82.5k followers. If you are a stan, a part of a Twitch group, or participate in any activities associated with the culture, please unfollow.
I cannot tolerate it any longer and wish to have nothing to do with it. I don't care if it has to do with me or somebody else. The culture is toxic. Every experience I've ever had with the community is negative. I'm sick of looking at Instagram and seeing that I am tagged in.
Okay, and then Dream replies, "You're an idiot." I don't know who that is. I don't know who Dream is, but apparently he's a very famous person, or she, or they. Janelle comments, "You've almost always taken a wrong turn when you start generalizing and lumping very large, diverse groups of people together." Scabby-doo. This is a lot of people saying, hey, stan culture is fine. This is somebody saying stan culture isn't bad. This is D'Angelo Wallace, not just somebody. Toxic stans are bad. Going after everyone who has a fandom profile pic is very strange. The ableist claim that it means you're mentally unwell is unacceptable. Eminem says stan once and y'all thinks the definition's set forever, not how English works. This is a strong take. All right, this is a strong take from D'Angelo Wallace. You're my mom. I'm glad that your mom knows my sound effects, Moni. That's really cool. Farquaad's Bestie writes, there are lots of layers to stan culture. It isn't fair to generalize it. And that is correct. That is also correct. I mean, that is certifiably correct because there's no way that you can even classify one fandom in stan culture as being all the same, much less the different ones altogether. So toxic stans, for however you define them, are the bad people in this case. The problem isn't people, it's the bad people, right? That's the way that we have to classify this. Or it's the bad behaviors. It is also not cool to say it means you're mentally unwell. That is indeed ableist and a shitty thing to say. And this is also a very, very strong point and an important point. Eminem said stan once, and y'all think the definition's set forever, not how English works. So, what happens with stan culture conversations for a lot of people on the internet is that they hear the word stan and they think it means one thing, and it could also mean many other things. For example, there are people that you'll run into online who you'll say like, hey, I'm a stan, or they'll see that you're a stan and they'll be like, why are you a stan? Stan is stalker and fan. That is not something that you should want to be. You shouldn't glorify stalker behavior. That I have no business talking to you, that kind of thing, right? Obviously, stans are not stalkers. So around the mid 2000s, there's an article that I read about this recently that I can pull up a bit later. People just started using the term stan in a type of colloquial sense with a sardonic undertone, probably after the impact of Eminem's Stan and people using that term before, to say that they really, really love, that they're really down for somebody, right? And so stan started replacing fan, and stan culture started emerging as a modification and a progression of fan culture. We generally associate the term stan and stan culture with people who go on social media now and build these profiles, these stan profiles, and engage in stan spaces dedicated to one particular person or group of people. And so BTS stan Twitter or ARMY Twitter is one example of that. And then K-pop stan Twitter, which BTS ARMY Twitter is tangentially connected to, with all the different fan bases in there, including Carrot Twitter for 17 stans and Blink Twitter for Blackpink stans, and then there's an amalgamation of them into K-pop stan Twitter, which is people from different groups but sort of uniting under being stans of K-pop groups, because K-pop is a very united thing for a lot of people, and generally they all have different behaviors. You'll have some people who are stans who have profile pictures dedicated to Jennie from Blackpink, who just genuinely want us to talk about how cool Jennie is, boost streaming parties, boost purchasing parties, and things like that. You have people who go on stan Twitter and are fan bases, and fan bases are people who organize things within fandoms, whether it be charity events, purchasing and streaming parties, disseminating content, etc. You have fan artists, which have been around since the beginning of time, who draw the artist. They have fan fiction, which has been around since the beginning of time. It's just something about my hair is really not cute. And so within these communities, you then have sub-communities of people. And basically what it comes down to, and what I say about stan culture in general, and what I think is the most important thing to take away from this, is that it all depends on who you put yourself around. You can have a negative experience of stan Twitter, in which stan Twitter is incredibly toxic, or you can have a positive experience of stan Twitter, in which everything is all rosy, depending on your perspective and the people that you put yourself around. Because there's nothing that really disseminates or separates the good from the bad otherwise. So, for example, there are people who talk about how they have left ARMY Twitter because they said it was super toxic. This happens all the time with different fandoms, but especially with ARMY. You always have people who are like, I'm an ex-ARMY. Who else is an ex-ARMY in here? Oh my god, that fandom is so toxic. I'm so glad that I left. I love the boys, but I just couldn't do it because the fandom is so toxic. But then you have people within my fandom, within ARMY, that left other fandoms. Like, those fandoms are more toxic, and I'm happy to be here, etc., etc. So whenever you hear people talk in these very large generalizations about what stan culture is or isn't, you run into some problems. In particular, I also want to address the notion that, for one thing that I've heard is that people say you are devoting your personality around a person who you don't know, right? Or around some idol, around some star, some YouTuber. That is just not a true assumption. Maybe some of the people in stan culture are people who literally eat, sleep, and breathe one particular person that they idolize or thing that they idolize, and cannot separate their real life personality from it. But in reality, creating a stan account is the same thing as creating a blog. If you make a food blog and you write about food every day and post pictures of it, that doesn't mean that your whole life is dedicated to food. It means that you have a food blog in which, for that particular account, for that particular blog website, all the content or the focus is around food and your love of it. Same thing for Marvel superheroes. You have a Marvel YouTube channel. Every video that you post on your Marvel YouTube channel and all the videos that you watch on it and like on it relate to Marvel, the comic book company. That doesn't mean that your life revolves around Marvel. That all that means is you have an account in which your energies are devoted to, in that particular platform, your love of Marvel, your interest in Marvel, and so on and so forth. So this assumption that people make, just because you're a stan of an artist, that means that you cannot think about anything else other than that, is nonsense. If you go on Army Twitter, if you go on Corpse Twitter, if you go on Dream Twitter, you will find people who are talking about it all the time, talking about them, talking about people in their community all the time. People who are part of stan culture on Twitter talk about other stans and stan culture more than they do the artist or the person that they stan half the time. This idea that stans that you meet, the friends that you make through stan culture are not your real friends. That doesn't make any sense. You can't calculate what exactly circumstances you can make that would allow you, like, you can't calculate exact circumstances that are going to always mean that the friends you make through it are bad. There's just no way. You can meet people in a street brawl that become your friends for life. You can meet people in the pits of hell that become your friends for life. Like, you could meet people anywhere. Stan culture is just one of those places. It allows for a lot of connection through there. And so a lot of the times you will find relationships that manifest, friendships that you make through there, end up being bad. I can attest to that. There have been multiple times in my life, throughout my experience so far as a stan, that I have made friends with. Turns out they're not a good friend. We're not friends anymore. Because when it didn't come down to us sharing a passion for BTS or for us liking BTS, there were things that we differed on, and there were things that they did that I didn't like. And there were things that I did that they didn't like. So that in particular doesn't make any sense. I also want to talk about how this idea of stan culture is that your life not only revolves around this person, but you somehow think that this person can do no wrong, that you idolize them and you worship them and you blindly worship them and follow them. A lot of that does manifest in fandoms. A lot of that does happen because people are very protective. But people are protective because they have generally because they have what is called the parasocial relationship with the person that they stan. So if I am a stan of Corpse Husband and I watch all of his streams, I'm a stan of Corpse, and I have a parasocial relationship with him, meaning he doesn't know who I am. He's never had a personal interaction with me, or maybe he has, but very barely. Scarcely, I should say. But I have developed a type of relationship with him, a type of attachment with him, because he talks to a general crowd or a general audience of which I am a part of, and takes interest in their well-being and tries to cultivate that, and that includes me being one of his fans. That is a two-sided parasocial relationship. And people talk about parasocial relationships all the time and say, oh, parasocial relationships are so bad. How could you love somebody who doesn't know you? Get the fuck out of here. First of all, everybody does this shit. Everybody does this shit. Before this, they were in the 1940s and 50s, people had parasocial relationships with their news anchors. They would be like, Walter Cronkite is the best news anchor around. He's so cool. I like him a lot. I can trust him. People always used to say that. In the documentaries you would see about like Walter Cronkite or all these different journalists that would be on news media on TV. They'd be like, he just had a sense that you could trust him. He was a nice guy. Or he had a really trustworthy personality and he was willing to tell you the truth. And he was very articulate and nice. That's a parasocial relationship. You have no idea who this guy is. You have no idea what his life is really like. Right? Theoretically, right? But you do know what he shares with you and what he actively shares with you, with this effort to connect with viewers and to not necessarily know who you are, right? But to offer something of value to you in a way that makes you trust him in the capacity that he serves in your life, right? So the same thing goes with anything else. And the same thing goes with the athletes. If you've ever at any point in your life said to yourself, when a celebrity messes up, man, not him. You have had a parasocial relationship with that celebrity. That is what a parasocial relationship is. If you have ever in your life said to yourself, that celebrity, I didn't think he would do something like that. I didn't think she would do something like that. I didn't think they would do something like that. That's messed up. I thought that they were better than that. You've had a parasocial relationship with the celebrity. Let me ask you something. You didn't know them personally. You never had a personal conversation with them ever in your life. They're a celebrity. They live a million miles away from you. They probably have a lot of money. Why on earth did you think that you knew them well enough to think that they would never do something that you thought was bad? Because that was what they presented in the parasocial relationship that you had with them. Whether or not they were somebody that you barely saw around, but every time that you saw them on YouTube and when they did a video, or every time you saw them in a commercial, you were like, ah, that's cool. Hey, that's Drake. I like Drake. You would have a parasocial relationship with them, even if you don't have a vested, deep-seated interest in that person. And you have a parasocial relationship with them because they present something to you of value. They present their personality to you. They try to connect with the viewer, or they connect with the viewer even if they don't try, whatever you want to say. And then that connection with the viewer is a relationship. It is a relationship that is not one-sided because they are actively doing things towards a larger audience in order to invest in that relationship. Drake is actively trying to connect with his fans. Eminem has been actively trying to connect with his fans. When he makes music like Sing for the Moment, when he goes on stage and he talks to people about you can do whatever you want to do, and when he has interviews, he's presenting a personality. He's presenting elements that he thinks, or things that he thinks, and elements of his personality that he wants you to see. That is a parasocial relationship. So if you're a stan of Eminem, if you're a stan of Lady Gaga, if you're a stan of Thierry Henry, you are a stan nonetheless. You are in a parasocial relationship. Now, are these always good? No. But good and bad are relative things, and that's why they're always so complicated and interchangeable. Oftentimes, you will have a parasocial relationship, and just like any other relationship that you have in your life, you will get good things from it and you'll get bad things from it. So that's life. Sometimes people will tell you, like, I've had a conversation with a person who sees that I stan BTS and has been like, oh, you stan BTS, like, why? And I'll be like, well, this and that. And also I'll mention, they seem like really cool people who have done these really cool things, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate what they show themselves. And I'll be like, yeah, but they could just be faking all of that. That's could all just be the company orchestrating things to make them look a certain way so that you like them more, so that you buy their products, right? Of course, that's possible. But guess what? Even though I don't have control over that, I still like what I see. And I still connect with what I see, and it's important to me. It builds a relationship. Everybody has that. Additionally, you don't know if they really care about their fans that much. You don't know if they're really those, nice people that you see that they are. Okay. Think about some of the friends that you have in your life. Think about any of your friends that you have in your life. Do you know for a fact that they really like you, or that they've just been faking it to you the entire time? How do you know? Maybe they've just really, my friend, he saw me when I was at my lowest point and he stuck with me. Maybe he was just doing that to manipulate you so that he could get things out of you. My parents and I have been through situations where I've had friends who have been through things with me, and then all of a sudden things changed up. I did something that they didn't like, and it turned out that they were actually fake the whole time. How did I know? How did I know that ahead of time? No way to know. There's no way to know what anybody else's intentions are other than your own. Whether or not that's a celebrity, person on YouTube, whatever. Even if somebody's actions are fully telling you that they are there for you and that they're down for you, they can easily, at some point, do something to indicate that they actually feel a different way, and then they will break up. I'm sorry. I mean, it does give you anxiety, right? Oh, do my friends actually like me? My family actually like me? There's no way you can concretely know. However, from the ways that you've interacted with them, the things that you've seen them do, the things that you've seen them say, their actions, you say, oh, this tells me that this person seems to really give a fuck about me and seems to care and seems to be a cool person. And that's why they're my friend, and that's why I like them. Same thing with BTS. Do I know that this is not all an elaborate ploy behind the scenes? That they're working with, yeah, granted, they're working with companies behind your back, whatever. Do I know that this is not all just like fake, and that they're just really good at coordinating these actions to make them look, and even making these sacrificial actions, like putting some negative aspects of themselves out there for people to relate to, and putting themselves in positions to, potentially get reprimanded by the government and things like that. Maybe they're all doing that just so they can sow this relationship with us, right? I will be having a whole connection with BTS based off of the things that I see, but there's no way for me to truly say that I know what their intentions are and I know what they're doing when I'm not around and when I can't see them. And the same thing goes with any of your friends. Those are relationships, and that's a relationship. A parasocial relationship, just like any other relationship, can be a good thing or a bad thing. You can have a toxic relationship with somebody that you see every single day. So you can't just blindly say that parasocial relationship is just always toxic, because guess what? A lot of people manifest really positive things from parasocial relationships. A lot of people manifest really excellent things from parasocial relationships. A lot of people feel like their lives changed. I've talked to people who feel like their lives have changed. I feel like talk to people who felt like their lives have been saved, right? Because of BTS. That if it wasn't for BTS and if it weren't for ARMY, they wouldn't be here. So what's bigger than that, right? So to say that it's all universally toxic and there's nothing good about it, that's nonsense. What the problem is that some people don't know where the lines are. They don't know how to behave within those spaces. They don't know how to behave within those spaces. You know what I mean? They don't know how to behave within that relationship. They don't understand what the boundaries are. They don't understand what they know about the person, what they don't know about the person. When somebody sits around and says, I absolutely know 100% for a fact that Jungkook is straight and hates gay people, guess what? You have crossed the line, in addition to being a homophobe. If you see somebody defend a person's actions when they seem to be evidentiarily in the wrong, then you're in a problem. Then you have a problem. Do you ever stick up for your friends when they're in the wrong? Yes. Is that a bad thing? Kind of. Yeah. Have you ever stuck up for your friends when they were in the wrong? Been there for your friends when they were in the wrong, even because you know they needed your support or they wanted your support, and then later on they went and did something to hurt you and show you that the shit wasn't even? Yes. Same thing could happen with a celebrity. With a celebrity, though, you have more distance, yes, and there's a lot more factors in the way, like money, right? Not to say that you never have friends in your life who don't make money, who don't get things off of you, right? But it's a very palpable sense of, if you develop a parasocial relationship with followers, with fans, you will get money, you will get viewers, you'll get clout. That happens. It is the case with everybody who has ever had any type of following or subscribership or clout or money from a public platform. Through developing these parasocial relationships, in a strong way, you benefit monetarily oftentimes, financially oftentimes. And that makes people very unsettled, and I understand that. And I think it's always good to have a healthy sense of distance or a healthy sense of skepticism, to where you say to yourself, hey, let me be careful about this, because I know that this person is making millions of dollars, and a lot of it comes down to the parasocial relationships that they've established with people like me. And so at the end of the day, I had to retain a sense of care with it. But you don't retain a great parasocial relationship like one with that BTS has with their fans simply by bullshitting to people. People like BTS's music, like me. People love BTS's music, like me. People love the actions, the palpable actions that BTS have done, which they've sacrificed their time or their energy or their money to do good things for people. Like when they donated $1 million to Black Lives Matter. I found that an admirable thing to do. When they did the UNICEF campaign, I found that an admirable thing to do. The things that they do, and just the small things, the things that they say, I find them admirable. And sometimes they do things that make you think, wow, like that was not necessary. You could have just been safer about it, but instead you put yourself in a position to where you were vulnerable. Vulnerability, that's what vulnerable means. When you make yourself vulnerable, that means that you could be attacked, that you could be hurt. They put themselves in positions where they could be hurt, they could be attacked, and people have attacked them and hurt them, but they did that because they wanted to benefit their fans. And that is how a creator on the opposite end of a parasocial relationship tries to benefit their fans. And so there's just this really uncomfortable way in which people talk about parasocial relationships and standom now. Everybody has associated stan culture and stan shit as being the worst thing in the world. You know, people talk about stan culture and parasocial relationships as if they are the problem with society. They're the problem with social media. The problem with social media is the problem with humanity, which is capitalism and the ways in which humans are flawed, which interrelate. But the problems in those situations cannot simply come down to a bunch of young people or a bunch of regular people on Twitter who are really into a specific creator. You can't just say that. That's not cool. Because at the end of the day, you're blaming larger problems with society on people who are using these things as a way to help themselves, to help other people, and who are developing genuine relationships, even though they're not the same thing as me being friends with somebody who's right over here. Genuine relationships that benefit people. Let's talk about stan culture with nuance. God, every time I talk about anything on here, it's all about, nuance, complexity. There's a lot of details here that you don't get. But at the end of the day, I don't think that people really think to themselves about those details. It's so easy to fall into that trap of, oh, here come the stans, right? I'm going to give you guys an example. It's very easy to fall into the trap of, here come the stans. The stans are bad. The stans are the worst, and I hate the stans. And I'm going to give you a perfect example of something that happened in my situation, and that's happening in my situation, to show you what stan culture can kind of be about. This is a video that I made a while back. Dropped it in September 23rd. My hair was a little bit shorter. It's called What Went Wrong with Best Dressed's New Video. In this video, which has 72,781 views, randomly, I have 1.8k subscribers on my channel, so this is very random amounts of viewership. You can see all types of people say all manner of things about me, right? So if you look at some of the comments that I've gotten, let's sort it by, well, you can actually just look right here. You made a 30-minute video about a video diary that really wasn't that bad. The video is romanticized because she's entertainment. And I think the amount of people in this comment section calling her a narcissist is ridiculous. Go find someone actually problematic to pick on. Shut up, Karen. Somebody call me a Karen. Shut up, Karen, dweeb. This is some dude named Derek Wayne. You clout chaser. Sadly, your most viewed video is about another YouTuber, LMAO. Again, I must say, it's not true. I actually have more viewed videos on this channel. Little did Derek know. Somebody insisted and then deleted their comments on here that I deleted one of their comments criticizing them when I didn't, and since then they have deleted all of their comments. This video is not a useful criticism. Are you wanting her to be empathetic, or are we virtue signaling what we think Ashley should be doing? So people started going at each other in my comment section there. So that is something that I could look at a lot. Somebody said in the comment section here, Elliot, great analysis. The standees are hurt. They all got main character syndrome. Right? And as I speak, it seems like there are more and more people who leave. There are people who have made response videos talking about how I'm full of shit or whatever. Oh, this is 4 days ago. You are a very problematic human being we don't need on this earth. Interesting. I've watched her since she was in film school, and the only change is that she grew up. That's literally it. Can people not grow? I can see that you clearly see. You've never seen her videos because even before that, all this pandemic thing, you can see all these comments that are very, very combative towards me, to the point where some people are telling me that I don't need to be alive. Some people are saying that my video is pointless, that this is cringy, etc., etc. Now, have you actually watched the video, guys? Please do if you're interested. Within my video, I at no point said anything negative about the character of Ashley from Best Dressed. Never at any point did I say that. And there were multiple points in my video where I said, hey, let's not attack. I don't know this person personally. I don't want to attack their character. I don't want to attack her character. All I said was, let's analyze this video that is getting a lot of negative comments, which is true. A lot of people had negative comments and criticisms of that video. And let's talk about some of the ways in which these parts of the video have been criticized by other people, and whether or not I can see it, whether or not I can understand it, and try to understand where the criticism is coming from so that we can productively give some advice about the situation. I promise to God, this is the shit that I was saying in that video. You can watch it right back. You can watch it right back. And there are people literally getting likes and subscribers and comments off of making videos about my video, talking about how I was literally just attacking her and it was about nothing. Which you can make the determination for yourself about whether or not the people's criticisms that I was talking about were fair. But I barely criticized her. Like, I criticized her to some degree in terms of, hey, this looks bad. This wasn't that great of an idea. Perhaps you should have thought about this more, etc., etc. And I did that multiple times. But I also was coming from the standpoint of, let me try to give something constructive because I don't assume that this is a bad person. This is the kind of thing that so many people experience online. People with platforms, people without platforms, who will say something critical about somebody, and then all of a sudden, a shabillion people jump in their replies in their comment sections and say, hey, you're a dick, go die, right? They say all types of terrible things to them, or they say that you're stupid, you don't know what you're talking about, etc., etc. And there are varying different types of situations in which this happens. For instance, I could have perhaps made a video wherein I was actually very mean to Ashley from Best Dressed and said a whole bunch of things about different things that she did, about her recent TikTok takes and all that stuff. Could have did that. And I could have said some things in there that could have been misogynistic. I could have said some things in there that could have been directly unfair. And so then, those stands would definitely still jump on me. But there would also be people who would be able to point that out and say, this is a thing that you did that was wrong. And it's scary and it sucks. And when it happens, the first thing that you want to do and say is, damn it, these stands are so stupid. If the stands would just get off of their celebrity's dick, these stupid stands, and stop saying that this person is, perfect and defending their every move, etc., etc., then we would be living in a better place where we could just criticize each other and you can't criticize anybody famous anymore and da-da-da-da-da. Like, you want to say that. And to a certain degree, it feels like you're right. But where there were people that were saying that, first of all, there were also people who were fans of my video who had respectful disagreements. I disagree with your criticism. I don't think that this video was good. There are people who are fans of hers who were like, I actually understand where you're coming from. I actually respect this video. I actually think some of the things that you were saying were on point, even though I'm a fan of Ashley and I hope she sees this and gets better and does better from it. There's all of that that's allowed. There's all that happens. You can't solely focus on those negative people. Even stans, many stans are capable of having respectful conversations. You don't see them because if you get 50 comments telling you that you're a piece of shit, that you feel like you're being dogpiled, even if there's 100 or 200 comments saying that you did a good job. Additionally, this doesn't have anything to do with stan culture. These people who are reflexively defensive and mean have always existed. They have more access to talk to you now because of the internet, which is where stan culture has developed into the new century. But what this really doesn't have to do with people making a stan profile on Twitter. It doesn't have to do with people saying, I stan this YouTuber, I love this YouTuber, this YouTuber is great. This doesn't have to do with that. What that actually has to do with is people literally just not receiving a good criticism or a good faith criticism well. That's what that is. And whether you call them stans or you call them fans or it's the 20th century, the 19th, or the 21st, these people have always existed. They just have more access now, which is a separate conversation about what we can do with that access. And where there are people like that, there are also many people who can consider themselves stans who would never do something like that, or would try their best never to do something like that. And maybe they'll slip up like humans do, but genuinely never do stuff like that. But genuinely, you could say anything about any celebrity online, that has a stan base, you could say Lady Gaga is the worst thing in the universe. Say the meanest thing about her possible. And especially if you frame it in a way where it looks very clear that you're not just a stan attacking her and you're not just being mean, but you're actually criticizing her, even if you're saying something that's really freaking mean. If the stans come in your comment section and attack you for it, you can simply go, oh, the stans, they're so crazy. They're so dumb. They don't understand. And so many people just hide behind that dynamic now, and they don't take time out to actually challenge and think about that situation. They don't take any time out, at least to acknowledge the fact that there are stans that are not doing that, and that are having their lives changed because of what you would consider stan culture. Additionally, we only have this kind of criticism, at the highest level. We only really talk this negatively about certain people when we call them stans, which is in reference to people who, are usually women, usually people of color, usually women, and usually people members of the LGBTQ plus community. That's what this term stan is associated with, and it's also always associated with K-pop artists and pop artists like Ariana Grande and Lady Gaga, right? But sports fans don't get called sports stans, even when they have accounts where their profile picture is Giancarlo Stanton from the Yankees, and their header is the Yankees, and they tweet about the Yankees nonstop. And they devote their account towards being a fan of the Yankees, and then get online and say terrible things to people. I'm a Yankees fan. I know this. I've been a Yankees fan since '07. I remember the 2009 World Series. I was in 8th grade. It was one of the happiest moments of my life. Hideki Matsui was the World Series MVP. I was super happy for him. And I was super happy that Mariano and Derek Jeter got their final ring to close things out. Big fan of the New York Yankees ever since then. I feel really weird about the last season that we had. I don't have very strong thoughts about Aaron Boone, but I'm not very high on him as a manager. And I also know that there's a lot of motherfuckers in the Yankees fandom that, for example, when Zach Greinke pitched against them a couple of years ago, did a chant making fun of his anxiety disorder. I'm an Arsenal fan. I know that there are people in the past year or two that have said racist ass shit to Nicolas Pepe, a footballer who joined the club within the past couple of years and hasn't lived up to expectations and happens to be Ivorian. I know that as a person who loves basketball, who loves the NBA, I'm a Knicks fan. I'm sorry to myself as well. I know that in this past the NBA Finals, Danny Green missed a game-winning shot after having a really rough season shooting from the three-point spot the whole year, and got death threats in the mail for missing the shot. People telling him to die, people telling him to kill himself, da-da-da-da-da. I know that this shit happens all the time, and people talk all the time, oh, well, we had to change sports fans or whatever. But nobody has ever said sports fans suck. I mean, people say it. But even then, they don't really mean it, do they? Right? It's not this crisis. You don't see any articles on Vox talking about what are we going to do? Sports fan culture is becoming bigger. They don't do any articles saying you should never devote your life to a soccer team or a baseball team. They don't do articles saying if you have you don't have these hot takes that get 1 million likes or 1 million views on YouTube, making fun of sports fans, saying, well, look at how lame they are, devoting their whole lives to having Nicolas Pepe in their avatar, having Derek Jeter in their avatar. So why is it that this culture exists and we don't call it even stan culture, but when it comes to somebody who loves BTS and does the same kind of thing, all of a sudden it's a dirge that needs to be removed from our society? I want you to think about that for a little bit. In part, as a parting comment, I just want to say that stan culture is a complicated thing. Recently on Stan Twitter, I have found myself increasingly vexed, even with people that I'm friends with and that I love, with the things that they say to other fandoms, the things that they say about other fans, stans, things that they say about whatever. there definitely is this sense that within these communities, a lot of toxicity gets promoted. It's happened, by the way, in fandom communities for years. You would see fandoms have all these controversies and people get canceled in fandoms in the Harry Potter fanfic days into the early 2000s. Now it just happens so rapidly and so often, and people do so much nonsense. Last night, some NCT fan page, no shade towards NCT and NCTzens, but some NCT fan page changed their profile picture and pretended that they got hacked by an army, then sent this tweet out saying, I can't believe this is terrible, and got thousands of likes within minutes from people saying, oh my god, I feel so bad for you, armies are so toxic, armies are so terrible. And it was so obvious that this person had faked being hacked, but they did it in this way because they wanted to participate in some fan war bullshit that stan culture makes so prevalent, especially particularly because of the way social media enhances this stuff. And Jack and all the motherfuckers at Twitter have a lot of explanation to do as far as how they've changed the algorithms and how they respond to these things on Twitter. Right. Additionally, even before that, you see shit happen with armies all the time. There was somebody that I followed on army Twitter who was pretending to be black. And they were pretending they blackfished or they catfished themselves. They put up a picture of themselves that said that it was their selfie and it was literally from another person on Twitter. Immediately deactivated their account. You see the craziest things. People get accused of horrible, horrible things. People use all kinds of horrible things for fan wars. People use all kinds of important things that need to have serious discussions as ways to talk down on other artists. And it is tiring. At the same time, I know so many people who, like I said, have been saved by BTS and whose lives don't revolve around being a BTS army. They have their own interests, just like I do, as a Yankees fan, as a musician, whatever. But whose own lives, like mine, have been benefited greatly by taking part in these cultures, by taking part in these communities. People who have become very knowledgeable about industries and industry problems, who have become more open-minded and more thoughtful about the world because of stan culture. People who have made great friends, who are some of their most real and enduring friends, more than even people that they meet in real life. And so this large-scale, rapid condemnation of stan culture, rolling eyes at stan culture, is something that has to be reconsidered. The stans are not always wrong, and the stans are not always toxic. The stans are just stans. They're human beings that represent another part of society and another part of fan culture, an adaptation or a progression of fan culture. There's a lot of problems in their communities, and guess what? Have you looked around yet? There's a lot of fucking problems in everybody else's. Because last I checked, ain't none of the fucking people on Twitter are perfect. Terrible things happen on Twitter, on all parts of it. Leftist Twitter, right-wing Twitter. Of course, right-wing Twitter. Every single part of Twitter has so much toxicity. But when toxicity is happening on stan Twitter, now it's a crisis. Now we gotta write threads about it. Get out of here. If you're somebody whose life has been impacted positively because of a Minecraft YouTuber, because of any kind of gamer, feel free to leave a comment, feel free to leave a reply and talk about that. Or Corpse Husband, or any streamer, like any musician, comment about that. The generalization is one thing, but it also takes away from our ability to talk about what goes on that's bad, in addition to the fact that we can't even show what's going on that's good. And if we could just stop pretending like we always know better than stans and start focusing on people that are human beings, that are giving human responses, thoughtful responses, stans or not, instead of hyper focusing on the people that say rational, terrible things like they have to me in the past, then we can start doing some things. But until then, doesn't seem like most people are interested in that. So what can you do? What can you do?